To say that God is our refuge and strength is no platitude. Jesus knows the trials we go through. Today on The Perspective with Mike Sherbino and Julie Stautland, we have the privilege to interview God's people, showing us all of the hope and beauty we possess within and without. This week, Mike is one-on-one with Jonathan Evans, a former American football pro who played with the Dallas Cowboys. Jonathan's sermons reach into the power and potential within each of us. Plus, how about a mulligan in your own life? Tanya Christensen is here to talk about her role in the film The Mulligan. Tanya is an actor whose work spans all genres, but in The Mulligan, she plays a woman who overcomes one of life's most difficult and tragic challenges, piecing back together a broken family. And Elvis Yeboah is a Canadian gospel singer-songwriter following in his father, Pastor Maxwell Yeboah's footsteps. Elvis's new organization, Citizens of Love, began in 2021, and he has some very big dreams to tell us about. Plus, Coach Drew is back in the house, a Perspective favorite, who has the score this week on depression, anxiety, and how to cope with its very unpleasant presence. Here's Mike and Julie.
Well, it's been an amazing week. We've got some amazing guests as usual, and today it is no different. And Julie, Elvis is in the house.
Elvis is in the house.
I just can't resist that line. You're going to have an amazing
would.
conversation with Elvis
Yes.
Yeboah, and it comes from Ghana, but it's here in Toronto. Great worship ministry. Very cool line of clothing.
I know.
But I know there's a purpose behind that, and I'm waiting for you to unpack
That's right.
all of that with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Yeboah is in the house, as we said, and catching up with Coach Drew a little later in the program. But right now, Elvis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Elvis, what a great name. Was your mom a fan?
My dad loved the name. I wouldn't say he was a fan, but the name just stood out to him. And he just said, him and my mom just said, they're going to name me Elvis.
Well, it's wonderful. So you are beginning to spread the love of God through your new organization, Citizens of Love. We have to hear, how did it start? And tell us all about it from the beginning to where you're at right now.
Citizens of Love is just a clothing brand, streetwear, luxury, just really to promote and shed light on love and where that we all come from love. Most importantly, we come from God, who is love, right? So just spreading that message, just to inspire, to encourage, to be positive. So people can also wear clothes, look good, but they're also representing God, who is love. And that's the message behind it. And I love fashion. I love dressing up. I got it from my parents, my mom and dad. Every Sunday, they'll make sure that me and my siblings are dressed up and, wearing our suits and our clothes. So I came from there, and now I just want to, kind of start my own and just really just shed the light, most importantly, like I said before, on God's love. So that's where it started from.
So how did you come up with a name? Did it just kind of hit you, or did someone throw some ideas around, or was it through prayer, or how did it come up?
Just a lot, like through prayer, just listing names. So many names I had, but just listing names, and I was just sitting there, and I just came to me. I'm just like, Citizens of Love.
It's a great name. I love it. That's why I had to ask you that.
Thank you. Yeah, we all come from love.
You're also a singer-songwriter who believes all things are possible with God, which they are. Tell us about your music.
For music, I started playing drums like young, like maybe age of 10. My dad is a pastor. My brother's a pastor. And I started singing about age of 15 and just leading worship, praise and worship in church, leading praise and worship in different churches, different denominations, and just really singing about God and his love and his goodness and his grace and all that good stuff. Singing is like my first love, to be honest with you. I still lead worship and praise today at my church, Spirit Alive. And soon I'll continue to, I'll actually release my single. So
that would be awesome. Elvis, we're all about people's faith and showing God's love for us in the world. Tell us about your own faith journey?
Well, my faith journey is it's been amazing. It's been a blessing. Like I said, I grew up in church. I grew up in the house of God. My dad is a pastor, so he inspired me. He motivates me. His name is Pastor Maxwell Yeboah. Also, my brother, Pastor Collins Yeboah. They just continue to just their life that they live is so inspiring. And me growing up in church, it was a part of me. But I also have my own story, my own journey, what God has done for me, how he's picked me up, how he's turned my life around. Just it's so much, like words can't even describe. So like my journey is just a blessing, and that's why I'm so much about positivity and love, because God has really shed his love on me and empowered me with his love. So now I can go out there and shed that light.
And I think this is so important, as you shared that you came from a wonderful background with your father and with your brothers and this wonderful family that has been supportive, and the foundation and that you've had of the word, but you still have to make it your own. And that's what you're saying. You've made it your own. You know who you are in your faith journey with Christ, and that's so important. You know, how do you perceive God putting things into our hearts in order to pursue and impact? What's your view on that?
It's just about just really humbling yourself and just being one with God, being one with the Spirit. Prayer, reading the Word, and God can really partake in you. He can really speak through you. Just trust in Him. Like life is ups and downs. That's okay. But as long as we put our trust in God, as long as we are humble, we pray, we are in his word, he is able to do exceedingly abundantly, no matter what it is.
Yes, absolutely. Now you're in the Toronto area. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm in the Toronto area.
So that's such a multicultural city. How are you finding your work with people in there, the ministry, the impact, or the challenges? What is Toronto like in order to minister to, whether it's your clothing of love you're sharing, or whether it's your music, or whatever other ways that you're choosing to minister? How are you finding that city to reach?
Toronto is a great city because it's multicultural, different ethnicities and things like that. It's so busy though. Everybody's just focusing on their own journey. Like it's up and down. It's fast paced, in a way. So it's like at times it feels that people don't have time for God, or people don't want to pursue God or just serve God. But the love of God is here. You just have to be more forward and out there and really minister the gospel, whatever it's through clothing line, through music, through social media, because people have so many things going on. Like people have so many ups and downs in their life. People are focusing on money, on their jobs, their career, all this stuff. But I feel that if we as Christians come out and, whether it's doing concerts or doing programs or organizations or shows such as this, The Perspective, we can really reach out to the people of Toronto to let them know that, there is a God. Yes, all these things are going on in your life, but there is a God who is there, who cares for you, who came for you to die for you and to give you victory. But it starts from us. It starts from us Christians here. So we can do that here in Toronto. We just got to all come together as one.
So true. So you've got the clothing line, you've got your music. What's next for you? Where would you like to see this go, build, grow?
I'm just taking it, one day at a time. But just through prayer, I know that God wants me to continue to just seek him and grow in him. Me and my wife, I recently got married a couple of years ago. She's also helping me in my ministry. We have a baby on the way as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're just focusing on family, on ministry, and on the clothing. I want to take it further. I want to reach out all of Toronto, all of Canada, all of America, the whole world. But just really be humble and just ask the Holy Spirit just to lead me so I can go about this the right way.
Well, Elvis, I love your passion. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you today with someone who is really doing great work out there. So much ahead of you, Elvis. Keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much, Julie.
God bless. All right, stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back.
Have I made my point about how important listening is? Right? Good? Good. Everybody's with me. Did everybody agree with me that it's really important? Okay. So can everybody repeat everything that I just said? No? So is that evidence that you didn't listen? Right? Because you can't repeat every word? No. It's not necessary in some senses to hear every word. It's more important to hear the heart of the message.
Well, you know, Julie, as I'm processing the conversations today, and thank you for leading us through those interviews. That was kind of fun. I just got to sit back and listen and say,
It was great.
Oh, I wonder how you're going to, sometimes helping a guest unpack what's hidden within them. But a couple of things came out to me really clearly. One was with Elvis. He's on a neat journey. And, you know, kudos to him as he's saying, I'm going to start this clothing line.
Yeah.
And it looks, you know what? He could probably dress me up and make me look a lot better. So that was pretty cool. But just he's saying, I'm listening. And the other thing was that not just with listening, the other L, he wasn't limiting God.
Right.
He said, I want to reach the country and I want to bless him. And I want to go further. I want to go around the world. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's really easy to shoot that down. But I don't know about you, but then I think Coach Drew is the other side of the teeter-totter because we're going to run into problems.
Sure.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every day. And I know what I took away from Coach Drew, but before I steal your thunder, what did you take away?
Okay. Well, there's a few things. One of the things is that you talked about the gatekeeper. And that we have to be our own gatekeeper as to what we allow in. And because if we don't, then we're always a victim. And we need to realize we need to choose, filter in what we want to receive. That doesn't mean we put our head in the sand and we don't actually know what's going on in the world, but we don't allow what's going on in the world to overwhelm us so that we feel like a victim. And it takes away our chance to be an influencer. And the other thing was I need to breathe more.
Well, I'm sitting here and he says, you know, just take a breath. And I'm thinking, are we going to snore? So it's really easy. And if I could say to you today, you know, what Andrew was talking about being still and listening for God's voice. Many times we just say, God, will you speak to me right now? But we need to quieten our hearts. And as we listen for him, he will speak to you through his word. He'll speak to you as you spend time in prayer with him. Those things that Elvis talked about, so important. And as you listen to these two men at different places in their lives, but they're learning to listen for God. And in the midst of it, as Andrew, Coach Drew was saying, so many people are struggling with anxiety. Did you catch that, Julie?
Absolutely.
Anxiety is the big thing. And that's
really
why we
is.
need to rest in God. And he invites you to do that today, right now. Stay with us. Coach Drew is going to come back and he's going to share the word.
Well, it's time once again for a favorite here on The Perspective. Andrew Blackwood is back with us again. Andrew, it's always wonderful to have you. Thanks for being here with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Julie. Glad to be here.
So, Coach Drew, the world is in disarray. What are your thoughts on so much going on?
Well, it's hard to keep up, Julie.
It really
Everywhere
is.
you look, there are challenges. If it's not people hungry, if it's not, devastation by weather, if it's not, challenges with politics and school, and it's enough to wreak havoc on the mind and the heart for sure.
Absolutely. Like, we want to talk about a study out of Britain that reports that chemical imbalance causes depression. In an age of anything goes and everything is debated, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts haven't changed much. I think we all, if you come from this perspective where you believe that the world has been impacted by sin,
Mm.
the reality is, sure, why couldn't depression be caused by, chemical imbalances? But why couldn't depression be caused by malnutrition or, environmental things? Like there's
Mm.
so many contributing factors to the experience of depression. So to say it's just a chemical imbalance, I wouldn't say that could even possibly account for all the experiences of depression in the world. Sure, it might be a contributing factor, but it's not the cause or the solution.
I think you're right on the money there. If you think about the fact that, like, as believers, we look at the mind, body, and soul, that we're three parts. It makes sense that there's three parts of us that can be affected and somehow have triggers for depression. And this is one area, one contributing area. It makes sense to me. How do
Mhm.
you personally cope as someone who is always there for your clients and, most importantly, your family and friends? What do you do to get you through?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say I'm always there. I do my best to support, the people that come to me. But I think finding, a real healthy, I can't say balance because that, states that there's some sort of equilibrium that we can
Right.
maintain, but it ebbs and it flows. But there are certain disciplines, spiritual disciplines and practices that I have that really do help me.
So what are some
My
of those? Can you share some?
Yeah. Well, for starters, my go-to is journaling. I journal
Mm.
in the morning and I journal at night.
Mm.
It's not just chronicling of thoughts. This is prayer. It's integrated. I'm talking to God. I'm listening. I'm processing my emotions. I use this process called ATI. It's something that I developed, but you increase your awareness, your tolerance, and your intentionality as you
Hmm.
journal, as you pray, and you listen. So that's something that I do. Exercise, getting out, trying to be, consistent with that. It changes every now and then when the seasons change. My daughters, they're school aged, right? So, your routine, it will change, but fitting these things in where possible is important. So that's another thing. And then eating well as best as possible and having healthy, supportive relationships, those are key, right?
Right. It sounds like you've just touched on all three parts of us, that you were making sure that you were taking care of yourself physically, spiritually, emotionally, just like we all need to do that. Those are really good points. I have to ask you, what are people coming to you right now most in your daily practice?
I would definitely say 95% of it would probably be anxiety. You
Mm.
know, um, it's tough living in the world that we live in today, where pretty much everywhere you look, there are challenges and there are concerns, and it becomes a part of how you possibly can see the world. You can start to anticipate negative and bad things happening, and a simple definition of anxiety is when you picture an unpleasant future, right? If you
Mm.
picture the future unpleasant, it's going to trigger anxiety in your body. But most people don't realize that they're anxious because they're imagining something.
Wow.
The imagination is powerful, which is why we're encouraged to think on things that are good, think on things that are virtuous, of any praise, of good report. And that's how we access, God's great peace, because we anticipate goodness from him.
And it's so interesting, even and I've read in medical situations where they talk about how the brain and the gut, there's really strong communication there, and how important it is how we think and how it can affect us even physically. And I know for myself, I know what that pit's like in my stomach. And you're so right. If I think about what's making that pit there, I'm not thinking about something pleasant, obviously, and having to take my thoughts captive and think on, how does God see the situation so I don't see it all doom and gloom, is so important. I think it's crucial what you shared there. And like you said, we're
Yeah.
living in an age of anxiety and anger. How much do world events, not the least of which is Russia's war in Ukraine, affect the wider consciousness?
Wow. I definitely think uh, we are impacted, especially if you are reading the news, if you are or watching the news. And I'm particular about how much I take in, because I am the gatekeeper. I get to choose that, and um, so I think the more that we watch and expose ourselves to these images and these perspectives, it's really important for us to be aware of the impact that it's having. Because if it impacts me in a particular way, it's going to impact my family in a particular way, and then it's going to impact my community in a particular way. So I do think there is a potential for us to be contributing to the overall consciousness, if you will, unintentionally, which is why we can do the same intentionally. There are more things that happen in the world that are actually not on the news. Like
Right.
there's a lot of good things that happen. And I know, just backtracking to one of the things that is important for us to do to keep ourselves well is not just being active personally as an individual, but finding ways to serve in community. That is really, really, really important. So when you realize that, God created you and put you here in this part of the world, wherever you are, with your gifts, your talents, you actually have something to offer. It's
Right.
really, really important for us to realize we do have strength, we do have power, we have something to give, something to offer. So if that means helping your neighbor, if that means serving at a soup kitchen, if that means, knitting things for people, if that means praying for people, right? We
Right.
get to employ and engage ourselves so that we're not victims of everything that's happening in the world. We are actually participants, and that really makes a difference.
Oh, that's a big point there. We are not just victims, but we are participants. I like that. Now, we've got 40 seconds. Jesus said we must be born again. How do you interpret this? Is it a person's whole journey, the lifelong journey to becoming whole?
We must be born again, born from above. Like, the rain comes down, right? Like this is an experience, a divine experience where God imparts to us. So not only are we born again with this awareness of who God is, but we get to be filled daily, this daily refreshing, where we are renewed, honestly, again and again and again, because what we receive from God yesterday is important, but there's so much more to receive from Him today. So I think that contributes to a degree of being alive, or aliveness, as you will, that we get to anticipate and cultivate every single day. And I think that's what it means to be born again. It means to be alive in the spirit. It means to be connected, and to feed, and to continually, perpetually grow in the way with our God.
Well, you always have so much to share that is just good, fertile seed, and I really love listening to you. But we're out of time. So thanks again for joining us, Coach Drew. Stay with us, because Dr. Andrew Blackwood is going to give us the word on keeping calm and carrying on in a world in chaos, and how to thrive and not be a victim.
As you sit there watching and listening to the words I'm saying, I imagine that you're aware of the state of the world. Wars, the devastation of storms, the political landscape, and the increasingly ambiguous nature of everything that once seemed so clear. Not to mention challenges in your own personal life, the endless list of things to do if you're like me, that you want to get done, but just can't make your way through. All of these very real situations can weigh us down and leave us feeling buried beneath it all. Whether you call it depression, hopelessness, a terrible sadness, or despair, I want you to stop just for a moment and just take a breath. It's easy for us to forget to breathe. And sometimes it seems pointless to do it. But when the world is spinning, that is the perfect time to be still and know that He is God. It's for us to realize that He is near to us. For as long as there is breath in this body, there is hope. There is hope. Hope for what? For things to change? Yeah, that's good. But there's something better than that, something far greater than our temporal circumstances changing is the hope of knowing Him more, right where we are. It's interesting that, I find it interesting that God sends Moses in to deliver the children of Israel out of Egypt, but for one purpose, to serve Him, to worship Him, to know Him. Paul says it in Philippians this way, that I might know Him and the fellowship of His sufferings and the power of His resurrection. I don't want you to allow your suffering to be in vain. Yes, it's suffering. When we feel depressed and we feel buried down, it's difficult. It's suffering. But sometimes we're so focused on feeling better that we overlook the transforming opportunity in our suffering. We're convinced that if I feel better, if things get better, then I'll feel better and things will just be better. As if we've got to be rescued from our situations. But what if the Lord was inviting you to actually come to Him in and with all of your weariness so that He could refresh you right where you are? Jesus says, come unto me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden. I love that translation, heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He doesn't say, I'll change your situation today. He says He will give us rest. You and me, there's rest for us. He will refresh us. Now, I thought it was cruel of Jesus to deliver the man possessed by a legion of demons, only to send him back home, likely to the people who were involved in him being enchained in a tomb amongst dead things and among a herd of swine. Right? The man says after he's delivered, Jesus, let me come with you. Let me come with you. And Jesus says, no, I want you to go home. Go home to your people and tell them what the Lord has done for you. What if the Lord was so powerful that He didn't need to take you out of your situation to refresh you and make you whole? Because that's also what salvation means. Yes, He can rescue us and take us out of our situation, but He can also heal, restore, preserve, refresh, make us whole right where we are. I love Jesus' words when He's preparing His disciples for His departure. He's telling them that He's not going to leave them comfortless, but He'll send the Holy Spirit that would be with them. The Amplified Version voices it this way: peace I leave with you, my perfect peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be afraid. Let my perfect peace calm you in every circumstance, and give you courage and strength for every challenge. Yes, your challenges are real, but so is our God. So as you stop today and breathe, I pray that you experience great peace from the only one who can give us perfect peace.